Okay. Hello, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. It looks like it's 1:02. So the first agenda item is for the approval of today's agenda. So I will need an approver and a secondary to approve the agenda as circulated. Okay. Did I see Helmut? And who was the member? Halliday? Thank you. Okay. And then do I have any pecuniary declarations for today?
Excuse me, Chair Nurmi, I apologize to interject. The committee could have any discussion on the minutes if they wish to, and then if no discussion, then they would just need to vote on the approval of the agenda.
I see. Okay. So thank you. Any discussion on the agenda for today? Okay, so is it all in favor then? All right, thank you. And then next, any declaration pecuniary interest? Okay, no. And then we have the approval of, I hope everyone had a chance to review the minutes for April 16th. And we will need the recommendation that the committee approves the minutes for April 16th. So I will need a motioner and a seconder.
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Member Robertson. And a seconder. Thank you, Member Mayor. And any discussion from the minutes? Then we need all in favor to accept. Thank you. Okay, and the items for discussion today. Now I'm not sure, Steve, if you are going to be talking about this master plan.
I can do that, yeah.
Okay, so maybe a high-level overview of what's included. I hope everyone had a chance to review it. It is lengthy, but very detailed. So I'll let you speak to it.
So what I can do is there's a PowerPoint presentation. I could share my screen at very high level. This was the master plan was presented late in October and approved. And there's actually a follow-up midterm report which County Council received on some of the progress on some of the things that were happening. And I'll speak just to the economic development portion, if that's okay. There is a whole section on gray routes as well. Say though, there was a lot of consultations done every 5 years when we do these master plans, internally with municipal staff, with businesses, business owners, and we go back and the consultant does that so that, you know, if there's things that need to be said, they can be said and they take a higher level. So that's part of the front end of that report. You'll see where a lot of the detail were done with the consultation. It was the same firm that did the consultation and report a number of years ago, so they could see the changes and trends. They are a professional firm that specializes in economic development, McSweeney. So let me just try and share my screen here. I usually do it. Don't usually do it in Zoom. Does that work? Share. Can we see, everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So again, this was done in October of last year and then presented and approved by Grey County. I'm not going to go through every slide. Just the vision and values are important. I think you're trying to grow as a team. I think that's a really important perspective that we have in economic development. We don't treat each municipality as our member municipalities separate. We view it as a whole, and we build on collaboration and sustainability to design to guide our decisions. So, and it really is about creating an environment for people and businesses to invest and reinvest. So when we say invest, businesses that are already here, they're always investing as well. We want them to reinvest. And the third part is always trying to encourage a sense of pride in your community. You know, if you don't have pride in your community, if your community doesn't think positively of itself, it's very hard to retain and attract people and new businesses. So, you know, in a nutshell, when we think of economic development, there's investment attraction, there's a retention of your businesses and your people, and then there's community pride. And that's just a real simplified way of understanding what I call economic development. Just reflecting on the last 5 years, which, you know, included a pandemic, which was pretty eventful. We have about 12,000 businesses in Grey County. The Small Business Enterprise Center, which is a partnership between Grey County and the province, does business advice and consultations. They've had over 600 consultations right across Grey. And they didn't really slow down during the pandemic. They did a lot of consultations to help people adjust. And that's really what the next item was, the Digital Service Squad. That was, again, something the province helped fund, and it helped people improve their online presence, particularly during the pandemic, so that they could pivot. Our marketing outreach, which, you know,
Steve,
yeah,
the slides are progressing. Are you progressing them on the?
so what slide do you see?
The first one.
Really?
Yeah.
Why would that be? You just see economic development, tourism, and cultural master plan?
Yes, I don't know about everyone else.
Okay, maybe I got to do it manually.
Yeah, and you
Okay.
are not in play mode with your slides. You have on the left side, you have the little pictures of each slide.
Right.
So that makes the actual slide that you're presenting also smaller.
Okay, let me try this. Is that better? I can't see. I see. Let's try.
There is a little icon.
Yes.
You have autosave and then on, and then your save function up in the left-hand corner. And there's a little icon that has a play button.
Display
That guy.
settings.
Yeah.
Duplicate slideshow. That's what we want, right? Is that better?
That's better.
What are you seeing?
The first slide.
Okay.
That's progressing.
Okay, great. So that was the vision slide I was talking about. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you.
That was you would have got to the end of the presentation. Oh, you guys are so polite. So I'll just get this is the slide I was speaking to. The 5 years in the past up till now. You know, 12,000 businesses. Second point being the Business Enterprise Center, which serves all of Grey. The Digital Service Squad, which was that program that the province introduced, and they're reintroducing it as a gang, so businesses that need help in getting online and provide their services. Tourism marketing and research. Primarily, we market through Instagram and Facebook, and obviously the website. And then Grey Roots, their visitation numbers and programs. And and you're seeing the main, obviously Grey County, our business enterprise, Grey County Sydenham campus, and the local immigration partnership, which all organizations which Grey are either a partner or drive directly. So our role, we see our role basically as great connectors. What we see happening and similar issues happening across Grey or even across many municipalities, we try and bring the solutions and together and share those, and also sharing what we know upward. So, the Western Warden Caucus is a number of rural communities that kind of identify current issues, and that feeds up. But really, that's what we try and do, is be a connector for businesses, for individuals, and for organizations. So, kind of speaking to this already, our core mandate is collaborating, and the key group that we collaborate with is obviously your economic development staff and your team. And your team it depends on who's taking on what role. Sometimes it's recreation and tourism, sometimes it's your roads departments, but primarily it's your economic development and your CEOs. So the main priority actions that we're going to be moving on and is the priority one is leadership and collaboration. So this hasn't happened yet, but we're going to host an annual economic development leadership forum. We are trying to have a better understanding of economic development with CEOs, with leadership and elected officials. And part of the challenge is that there has been a lot of change, and I think that's just the new norm. And so understanding economic development is not something that you do overnight, in part because you don't experience different investment opportunities. You may only see one or two opportunities a year. So it takes time to understand that. We're also doing regular scans on what are the opportunities within Grey and what are the challenges. So the example there being physician recruitment is starting to come back as an issue. We've talked about training as being an issue. Housing, obviously.
Everybody, and welcome.
Okay, and then looking at municipal boundaries and partnerships on case studies and what that might look at, like that's part of the challenge with economic development is one of the few services that a municipality offers that really extends outside their municipal boundaries. You have municipal boundaries or political boundaries, but economic boundaries aren't contained to your municipality. You really are influenced by what's happening across the region. And you sometimes have to look at it, well, you should look at it that way, but sometimes that's hard. So we're just trying to educate and elevate that thinking. And so the other thing we want to do is have an understanding with each local municipality as to what are their main issues. We can't take them all on, and we're not going to do something without the support and drive of the member municipality. So, I'm not going to go research a project unless the CEO and the economic development person is right there saying, yes, we need this help. It sounds like it sounds like it makes sense, and why wouldn't you do it that way? But there are times when we will start something and then things change, and we really can't go forward if there's no CEO or the CEO has changed or direction has changed. So it's just making sure we're in sync with the member municipalities. The second priority is investment ready, and I think the last number of years we're getting better, but we're still not where we need to be as a region. As an example, I would say to you that if someone came to us and said, you have 10 acres of municipally owned serviced industrial land that the municipality owns, I don't think there's any available. And that's just an opportunities that are lost. So one of the things we're going to do and help this along is sharing data. And we've with Grey County there's a couple different things we've done. You'll notice or should notice on your website. And I'm not sure whether Grey Highlands has implemented this yet, but it's there. There's a standard demographic tool that we use, and it's on our website, but it's also on the member municipalities' website. And then there's some other spotlight tools that use Environics. And so those are two data sharing templates that are ready to go right now. There's also another one, tourism data sharing, where we can share photos. This may seem kind of basic, but having an inventory of good quality photos that we have full permission to use and that we can share quickly with our member municipalities is an important process. And what we mean by that is photos tell a big story, but they sometimes can get out of date real quick. So our goal is to have this inventory of photos that both member municipalities like and don't like. We only keep what's really important that's there that we can use in gray, but they can use as well. So those templates are there. And then we're looking at or advocating anyway, some larger municipally owned employment lands that that Gray may get involved in. We're finding that one of the challenges of member municipalities trying to create their own industrial parks, that it's a lot of work, it's a lot of money, and it tends to get pushed off, and it really limits our ability to think forward. You know, do you have a business park? Do you have an industrial park? And it's not really productive if you say, well, there's 5 acres over here, there's 5 acres over there, and it's owned by the private sector. That's not being investment ready. There are a few private industrial parks. There are some, but not many. Usually it's just a land holding. So that's something we're looking at. And then significant economic development projects, we can only take on a couple every year. And I would say, for example, right now we're dealing with the Saugeen Municipal Airport, which 2 of our municipalities are involved with. I would say another example was the Beaver Valley Talisman project. We were involved in that early on, and it now has its own process and life. But that's the kind of projects that we're looking at when we say significant regional economic development projects. And then obviously welcoming communities, infrastructure, having the people, the place to welcome and communicate to newcomers, which is important and going to get more important. So the third priority, obviously, and I know we're calling it the third priority, but I would say it's probably the number 1 priority when you're dealing with economic development is retaining and expanding your existing businesses. So we've done a number of things over the years: our regional job fair, our tourism summit. We had a local food gather campaign, educational workshops. These things all help businesses at the moment. And during the pandemic, we were very specific in helping them deliver programs and grant programs. We have regional roundtables that are planned in the core sectors. And our core sectors are agriculture, tourism, manufacturing. And then I would say a sub theme within manufacturing is energy, given that there's Bruce Nuclear, there's the Waste Storage Project, there's the TC Energy Project, and Hydrogen Optimize. And lastly is helping Georgian College grow as ability to retain young people and keeping those resources here locally. I can tell you the apprenticeship program is very, very valuable to many of our businesses. If they have to send their staff to Kitchener or London to get trained, what happens is they often don't get trained. So we're seeing good enrollment in the numerous programs, apprenticeship programs that the college had expanded. And then the fourth priority is entrepreneurship and innovation. And this is certainly centered around the Small Business Enterprise Center and Catapult. The difference of these two is they're both helping businesses, small businesses, startups are served by the Business Enterprise Center. Catapult serves those businesses that are accelerating. In other words, they might have 5, 10 employees already, and they need to ramp up. It usually takes a different type of mentorship. And then the Regional Training Center at Sydenham. Some of you may have had the tour, and we opened a number of facilities here and resources, particularly the makerspace, which we see as helping entrepreneurs and businesses throughout the region. And the next phase will be to see if there are local maker spaces or interest at each municipal level. So really important to help with introduction of trades or training or businesses. And then again, helping member municipalities share information and solve common problems. And then finally is tourism. But tourism from a destination development, we do our marketing, but how do we become more of an attraction and develop those long-term? So the outdoor management group, the OMG group, was quite active during the pandemic because we had many of our green spaces were overrun. I think the Hogs Falls was a really good example of that. The demand has waned, but we continue to understand and how to improve our wayfinding and the visitor experience. But also, when we're doing a road reconstruction, if there's an ability to add a parking lot, it's much cheaper when the equipment is right there. So that's something that we're continuing to talk to the OMG, the Outdoor Management Group. And then destination marketing is something that we're also looking at doing and trying to get out of market. I think for the first time we've taken out, other than social media, which goes everywhere, we've taken out some different marketing this year that hits all the national papers in a different type of promotion. So again, we're trying to do something to complement what local municipalities are doing, but as a region, we have more resources and can promote the region outside the region, if that makes sense. And then communicate at the same time to visitors and new residents. Often new residents visit a place, become familiar with it before so they're visitors and tourists before they become a resident. So that's the economic development portion, the 5 main priorities, and really where we're heading with that. So hopefully that was short enough, not too detailed. Was that okay?
Yeah, that's great. Good overview. So I'll open it up to questions if anybody has any. I have a question about just what you said about the tourism and the national marketing. So what regions nationally are you targeting?
Well, there's a couple publications that combine together. So I think it's the National Post, Globe Mail, and the Toronto Star with the same message. And it's a different type, but it's actually a print. So print we've gone away from, like everybody, because of the cost. But we've tried this just to see what the measurements are. They've linked the print piece to their online, so there is a way to kind of measure it. But it's more awareness, obviously, of what we're about. I mean, one of the things that when you're talking about marketing and awareness, it's the same as economic development. Unless you're telling people your message, there's 10 other people telling them their message, and they won't find you unless they somehow become aware of you. And this is particularly true in economic development in terms of business, but it's also true in tourism. So
it's an awareness campaign and not necessarily a call to action.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the call to action is to go to the website and then see what we have to offer, and then obviously online presence. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? Member Holliday?
Yes, Steve, good presentation, and I certainly enjoyed all it. A few questions. Haven't heard about the outdoor management group. Who is that made up of?
We could have a whole discussion on that one. So one of the things that became very evident when you talk about our green spaces is that, member municipalities in Grey County, we often hear from the tourists the brunt of the complaints and the issues. But the challenge being is that we don't own these properties. It's generally other organizations that own the property, and then there's usually a volunteer group that's managing the trail. So you have, whether it's a conservation authority or MNR, so it's usually provincial. They have these properties and they have different mandates, and so you might have a trail group that wants to do something. Well, how do they get collaboration between Grey County, the roads departments, the provincial organizations, and how do they keep all that together? That was the purpose of bringing that group together. So, I think a good example is Hog Falls, where they did that. They got federal resources, and they got resources from the Great County, and I think they got resources from Greyhounds to do that upgrade. But it's understanding all those players, and that's who comes together.
That's good. Now I understand as soon as you mentioned, that broad-based group of people that would be interested in what's happening on our outdoors. Question that I also have is, you're looking at concept of an MOU with each of one of your municipal partners, and I understand that that's certainly a way forward, much better than the loosey-goosey collaborative thing that we have right now. One of the things that historically we went back, and I've been around in economic development since 2002. So was the development of a economic development corporation, where each municipality is a partner, and there are lots of them around Ontario. Just was wondering, was that ever discussed?
No, not yet. I would say that a municipal corporation is useful if it has something to focus and market on, but because we don't have even on a loose environment, industrial land or business parks, I'm not sure what the corporation would do.
Okay. I get what you're talking about. These corporations usually investigate the land that's owned by the municipality. So again, that's a bit of a challenge. The other question that I have is, in May 2022, they got funding to create investment attraction organization, where Grey County would be exploring the world and sending people out on missions and junkets. How has that worked out? Because I do know you did get some grants.
Yeah, so that no one's asked me that. That's a good question. So we applied to, I think it's called CECI now. It's Global Affairs, and they fund they'll fund 50% of your foreign direct investment strategy. And we had got funding to attend and promote and understand the hydrogen and nuclear last year. And that was interesting to see what was happening in the world and to kind of promote what we have here. The challenge being, again, we don't necessarily have the land, but the lead time takes a long time. So we did it. It takes a lot of lead time, and we didn't have the resources to continue with that direct involvement, because Grey, there was a reduction in resources to our team, and so we'll work with the broader group to talk about attracting energy, but going forward, we've got to focus on what we've talked about here today. That was the FDI piece. We're still talking, and we'll promote it from what we can do from this side, but we're not going to be doing any more visits until we get more resources or we see the opportunities. It was very enlightening to go to it was in Paris last November, the World Nuclear Show. The level of investment going into nuclear is incredible. I will say another thing that I did not anticipate, and I would share this with you, is that the Europeans understand what we're about in Ontario far, far better than the US. To the point where I was meeting people who lived in our area and who came up through, whether it's Bruce Power or Supplier, they're around the world. And they don't look at just going to big cities. They do business in small cities. So one of the things I communicated to the broader region of economic development people is that we have a lot going on in Ontario, in our region, around energy, and we should be hosting and communicating that. We could be inviting many of those world leaders in nuclear and hydrogen. They would come over here in a heartbeat. When you think about billions of dollars at Bruce County, billions of dollars at TC Energy, and billions of dollars in the pump storage project, that's enough for them to come over and see what we have. And I see that NII, which we're all a part of, is starting to do some of that. Is that clear enough? So we did it. We've had to pull back a bit, or more than I would like to see us do that, but.
Okay, well, at least it hasn't died on the vine, and
No.
so that's good to hear, and it's good to hear how you're handling it. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is there's collaboration up and down. Down is with your municipalities that make up the county, but collaboration works up with both the federal government and the provincial governments. I'm aware of FedDev Ontario, and also I'm a member of one of the boards of the Community Futures. So how is that relationship? Should that be strengthened, let's say at the FedDev level? Because certainly FedDev has given out some enormous grants. Let's say if we had a federal perspective, let's say with an international corporation wanted to open a data center in Owen Sound, FedDev Ontario would be involved, and also with Ontario. But how do we have lobbyists? Do we have a strong interface? Should that be strengthened?
We have a very good interface with FedDev, and the province and the feds. The provincial rep joins us on our regional meetings and is always invited to speak about their particular programs. Now, when I say programs, funding programs for both municipal economic development projects, but also funding projects for the private sector. FedDev in particular funded the Sydenham campus to the tune of over $1 million. And in fact, they called us middle of February and asked if we could spend a lot of money quickly, and we did that, which resulted in a whole welding metal shop. So they are very interested in seeing what happens at Sydenham campus. We're one of the first rural innovation centers they have funded. It took them a long time. They were very skittish about this because they knew if they funded it, they'd have lots of requests from across rural Ontario. So
it's true.
We do have a good connection, and I would say the businesses have also, Hydrogen Optimized got a very significant grant. Well, they're getting every grant they can grab onto, but and the granting process is a lot better. There was a time 5 years ago when promises were made at the provincial federal level and they did not deliver, and it was mostly around timing. a company buys a printing press and they say in 3 months I got to know, and they didn't get back. And so for a lot of companies, it left a bad taste in their mouth. But that has since been, I think, corrected. So,
Okay. One other question, then I'll shut up, and that's is there a strong enough relationship between Business Enterprise Center and all the new people that want to get involved in entrepreneurship, etc., and the community futures organizations that exist in our communities. There's a lot of money that's being made available through the redemption of the COVID funding, and so community futures are looking for new businesses to fund. And I'm not sure, is there a strong enough relationship there?
well, I think I think there is. That one of the challenges we have is that I think there are 3 different community future programs that cover Grey County.
Right.
So they all have, slightly different focus, but they generally have the same funding models. I do think you're right, though. I think we could do a better job understanding and connecting. The challenge is at the provincial and federal level, for you to get funding from them, it's got to be significant, like significant.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
And money, and then at community futures, it's scaled down a lot, where they can help out and primarily through their loan program. But I that can always be strengthened.
All right, because let's say they do collaborate as well for their, Bruce and Saugeen and Wellington, they can put together $900,000 for a project. So just it's interesting. I'm just getting my feet wet into that area, but I find it interesting. And I find it interesting that how long some of the board members have been on these groups and the contributions actually they've made over the years. And I just making you aware that I think I wasn't seeing maybe enough relationship coming through at the business enterprise level.
I'll pass that on, and it could be that we just haven't highlighted it.
Right.
We know they're there. Yeah.
Okay, it's there. Okay.
Yeah.
Enough said. I'll let others talk.
Thank you, Member Halliday. Does anybody else have any questions for Member Maloney? You're on mute.
Yes, I would have a question.
Okay, are you good now?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, we are good. Can we hear me?
Member Maloney and then Member Mayer.
Okay, quick question, Steve. First of all, thanks for the presentation. A couple things I never knew before. One thing you said that kind of surprised me a little bit, and that was, I don't know if you can answer. I got 2 questions based on that, but you said that the cost of a project, municipal project, depends on the availability and location of equipment. Never considered that before. I haven't worked in a planning department. Do you have an idea what percentage of a quote would cost? And I guess a more important question is, do municipal planning departments schedule projects based on the availability and location of heavy equipment that's already in the area?
Yeah, so I think just to clarify, I think what I was referring to was that when our roads department are out on a county road repairing or repaving or reconstructing, that's when we talk to our partners about, do you need a parking lot or something expanded or a new entrance put in? So that's what we try and do at the OMG group with the trail groups and conservation authorities. If they see an opportunity to align, it takes a long lead time. So when I talked about equipment, that's what I was referring to.
Okay, so but location is considered quite often. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the roads department, they pick a road that needs work done, and then we say, okay, what else is around there? It's just it just makes sense. But you have to be thinking about it, not a year. It's almost a year and 2 years ahead.
Sure, yeah, I understand that. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay, well, thanks. I was just curious when you said that. I'm thinking, never thought of that. Thanks for your answers.
Member Mayer.
Okay, my question is more related to since I have not access right now to the agenda, are the slides included in the deck that was sent, or will we get a copy of the slides presented today?
Certainly, I can give you a copy if you wish.
That would be great.
In fact, I'll also include the presentation that gave sort of the midterm update that gave examples of what we've been doing in these areas. And it's short. So both presentations, one that says the strategy, and then the other is sort of what have we done in the first 6 months.
Great. That would be helpful.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
That's great. Any other questions?
I'll have a question.
Okay, Member Halliday?
Yes, and your priority, I'm looking at it, priority one is physician recruitment. And we know that that is sort of ad hoc all over the place, and there doesn't seem to be, you might say, a county perspective on physician recruitment working with Bright Shores. And it seems to me that I'd like to know how far you've gone on that and what you see is needed. I see a bit of a disjointed action. So
You're absolutely
perhaps...
right. And I'd like to know too.
Okay.
So what we're talking about here is the example is you do a scans to raise the issue. So you're right. Physician recruitment has raised its head. It's an issue. It's a problem. I don't know that we're talking about it. We're raising it, but I'm not sure that we have found a common approach to it and a strategy going forward. 15 years ago, where this came up, and I remember dealing with it, and it really, my personal view is this is a provincial, so they can solve this pretty quickly. But
Right.
In the absence of them not doing it, we'll have to do our best efforts to recruit people. But normally when we do when we get involved, it's more about attending and giving information packages that talk about, our area and what makes it a good place to live. It's up to councils if they want to write checks, which I don't personally see as effective. But anyway.
Well, it is being done all
I
over.
know.
And of course, the new breed of doctors are coming out, and they probably family health teams or something that they like because they don't become administrative burdens on them. I'm not sure, how that's working, but again, I'm just suggesting that the Grey County spend some time with the new head of Bright Shores, Ms. Ford, to develop a concept because only Bright Shores can hire, and everybody's scrambling around, trying to recruit physicians, but who's going to hire them? So, right. And the CHC can only have so many. So, anyhow, that's my passion right now.
Mayor McQueen, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. And a couple things. Dr. Recruitment, I think, Member Halliday, you're right, working with the new head of Bright Shores and Ford. I had a meeting with her on Friday, and I think she's going to develop a bigger picture on that type of idea. And, they're doing, I think, a next 25 years plan of what is the whole Bright Shores is going to look like. But part of that would be doctors recruitment. I do want to say that as an example, you talk about competing to get doctors. Wasaga Beach just got a new doctor, and they were very, they competed very much in the sense of money on the table and whatever. I'll find it better. I have a meeting with the mayors and CEOs on Friday in Wasaga Beach to have a better idea of what they did. But there are municipalities that are doing it and getting doctors, but it basically boils down to money on one part. And, Wasaga Beach is a growing community as well. But I think, as Steve said, it's, and we have had a doctor's recruitment here in Grey Highlands, and I know Chapman's had put at one time money on the table. We did get an individual, but they stayed for a period of time and then left again, which you're probably aware of as well. So it is a competitive thing. It shouldn't have to be that way. You know, in the sense of a provincial mandate is maybe rural municipalities, you know, maybe there's a point system, who knows, but that's something that maybe we can talk about further in that sense. But great presentation, Steve. I know just a refresher from the county, but I think in one sense, we all have to work together. I know individually in municipalities, we have, you know, our own interests, but I think it's something to be said at the county level of looking at the bigger picture. And I think that's important as well. So I just want to make those few comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Wasaga Beach wrote checks from their casino. You'll learn about that. My experience with writing checks is they stay as long as the check had some influence and then they're gone. So it's challenging. I will say that the province 10, 15 years ago put in place a number of things for rural recruitment, which are still paying dividends today. They have a whole, you know, like in Owen Sound, there's a rural medicine program where they train, and those kids all decide to stay in the area, and it is working to a degree. It's just they just need more, and that's because there's more people. So anyway,
just to follow up on that, maybe, Madam Chair, and this was something else I had with my meeting with Ann Ford on Friday, and we talked about this, is it does take provincial government planning, and we do know that maybe those don't know, but in the around in the 90s, the nursing program was cut back in the province. And what are we faced with now? Shortage of nurses. So there is something to be said on the bigger picture in the sense of planning. And I think at the time it was Bob Ray was the premier, and they did cut back on nurses. If you think back far enough, or are able to remember back that far. So there is a lot of different levels, and it is something that we do have to plan for the future. I know they were just talking about it on CBC there this morning, or about the silver tsunami, and you know, with the aging baby boomers and all that aspect around that as well. So we're getting a little bit more into healthcare maybe than economic development, but you know, economic development does have a lot to do with healthcare, as we know, with the new hospital in Markdale, education as well, with the new school, and those are, I really strongly feel, and long-term care as well. Those are pivotal things that I think do help your investment into your community, because those are pillars that are really important for your community. School, hospital, long-term care, a lot of other things that go along with it, certainly industrial or commercial park. But there's a lot of different pillars that you know, I think can be looked upon as communities that are more successful than others, and that sort of point. But thanks.
You Member Robertson, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I can speak to writing checks to bring doctors. As I was part of the group that wrote the check for the doctor in Markdale, who took 3/4 of the money, stayed only a year, and then left after taking. We paid $150,000, and he gave us back 35. He was supposed to stay for 3 years and stayed for 1. So what I would say is there any talk in the economic development about the quality of life regarding activities in these small communities and supports for the organizations that facilitate these, like hockey associations, sport associations, and community groups that are primarily volunteers? So the doctor was paid for by the Rotary Club, and then the Candy Stripers, or the Women's Auxiliary as they are called, they paid for the doctors through their volunteer fundraising. Is there any talk in economic development about supporting these organizations so that they can, you know, continue to provide these, what are critical roles in the community that aren't funded through the municipalities?
Yeah, I haven't heard, and I can talk to Savannah, the director, more on where she's seeing physician recruitment and what our role will be. Primarily, we've been putting together quality of life packages. I haven't heard of how we would support local community groups. I mean, I suppose would depend on what they think they need. You know, sometimes you'll have groups that want to go to a doctor recruitment show. So we have promotional materials, displays, stands, banners that help them communicate the quality of life and what we're about.
Not so much that, I mean, like, acts like
Yeah,
taking
no,
doctor recruitment is that one of the reasons why doctors don't stay is that there isn't quite the quality of life a doctor is
Right.
expecting in these small communities, right? They tend to be ethnically diverse, and we don't have a lot of that here. We don't have, you know, great sports infrastructure. We don't have, you know, a lot of the infrastructure that they would want to raise their families in this area. Those things tend to be in our community delivered through volunteer groups.
Yep.
So
Yep.
would there be something in there that looks specifically at supporting these volunteer groups that are having a really hard time lately, as most of the members are aging out?
Yeah.
Yet people still expect these services to happen.
Yeah, so it's a good point. I'm not aware of, it's not that we wouldn't. I think that that's a good follow-up discussion to understand what the consensus is, and or maybe it's just a one-off, you know, if someone comes forward. I'm just not sure. I don't know what our role could be. I mean, we're used to, hey, what's the problem? Let's find a solution. So I mean, I'll
Yeah,
talk.
I mean, I know on our level here, we think like, you know, a municipal activities director, something along those lines that could help facilitate all the individual groups and help them, like your outside group, be the same thing for those type of things that would sort of cut through all the red tape that these groups have to constantly go through to get anything to happen.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth, I'll talk to Savannah about it. I just haven't heard what the need is, or like, I know what the issue is, but I don't know I'm not sure how we can help, I guess and I just haven't looked at it. So.
Okay, well, look at it, please.
Okay.
Thank
Noted.
you. And Mayor McQueen, looks like you were the last question. Oh, you're on mute. Oh.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Just another comment or discussion I had with Ann Ford on Friday was, when you're bringing healthcare workers into our region, is also looking at the opportunity for their spouse or partner, and looking at okay, what is there also a team that can help out on that part, you know, depending on the skill set or whatever, because, you know, a lot of times it's not just about a particular person, but it's sometimes their partners and their family and that type of thing. So it's a big picture thing as well. So I thought that was sort of interesting. It's probably something that we should know, but just in the sense that I think from Bright Shores, they do look at, or they do have people looking at, you know, how can we offer more than just the healthcare worker, but the other part of that partnership.
Yeah, spousal employment. Yeah.
The shortage of doctors is also, it's in any high level administration job too. HR, public, you know, I'm at Participation Lodge. The executive director role is very hard to fill up here for the exact same reasons. So it's very hard to get highly educated, highly skilled professionals to come here, not just doctors.
You're right. It's a challenge.
So yeah, I think that there has to be a look at it all, not just a doctor, maybe like I said, a young professionals recruitment type look at it, so that it's not just, you know, because there might be other healthcare professionals looking in on it, on our area as well. I know Markdale, that's specifically the case because of its central location and aging population.
Which is one of the reasons we host an event called the Young Professional Network, which is happening Thursday, in an outdoor event in Chatsworth, where we try to limit people who look like me and keep it young, so that they, as new people to the professionals, they get to meet other new people and be part of a community. And it's meant to do exactly what you just said, make them feel like they're connected, regardless of what their professional, you know, whether they're HR or doctor recruitment or whatever. But it is a challenge. I think my perspective I would leave for doctor recruitment committees is it's harder to find, but you got to get the right match. And you might be better to offer, a bicycle, a kayak, a bicycle, and other things like that as an incentive package. And not every new doctor is going to want to do it, but if you get the right doctor who stays and likes that and is here because they like what we have here, that's the key. It just takes time and is much longer. So
thank you. Thank you, Steve. That was a great discussion, everyone. And I just wanted to, I think Member Halliday had mentioned about FedDev. For tourism, FedDev does support the RTO, so RTO 7 in our case, for their federal tourism growth strategy. So we get funding in the region for tourism for that as well. So on that, we put a motion forward that this group receives the Great Reset master plan for information. So I need an approver and a seconder. Approver is Member Robertson, seconder Member Halliday. Thank you. And next would be members' privilege. If anyone has any, oh, sorry, Coordinator Thompson. What did I miss?
Thanks,
Oh, we need all in favor, right?
That's correct.
Thank you. All in favor? I was on a roll there. Thank you. Okay, so next is members' privilege. If anyone has any topics for discussion. Okay, I don't see any. So, oh, Member Mayor, you have your hand up?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I have a question for Mayor McQueen. He just mentioned that he had a meeting with Bright Shores and I guess the CEO. And my question to Mayor McQueen is if he knows what the plans are with the old hospital side of Bright Shores and where they are tending to go with that.
Well, if I may, I'm sure. I did raise that up. I did raise that point. And, because I've had comments from other people saying we got a building in our downtown that's all boarded up and, there doesn't look, as attractive of a downtown as we know as the municipality is working through our downtown property that we own as well. But yeah, I did ask the question, and they're going to be doing an assessment on the hospital in the sense of the building itself and all that. But I don't know if I'm at liberty to say, other than it may be the space might be available. The building itself may be to the point that it's not as valuable in the sense, but certainly the downtown space. But right now they're going through a process. So that's about all I can convey from our conversation. But I did ask that question, and it is on their radar. So I think that's an important thing. So yeah, there was a few things I asked her, and that was one of them.
Okay,
I think you and others are asking the same, and it's probably like everything else. They go through a process, and another space that will be coming up that'll be surplus is also the I think we've talked a bit about that as well, is the old Beavercrest School whenever that transition as well. And I have sort of asked that question a little bit. Does the school board need all that space in the sense of they do still have the playground between the old building and the new building. So I think that would be, personally myself, a great opportunity for maybe some residential development or who knows. But again, that's sort of up in the air. I guess we will have a better idea once the new school opens, which I think is sort of on slate for Christmas of this year. I haven't had an update on that, but I understand, I haven't driven by recently, but they are moving along quickly on that as well. Especially with the announcement that happened in Southgate with their announcement of new schools down there, which is a really I think that was the 31st of May. The warden and the mayor of Southgate was at that, but we know the growth that's happening there as well. And I flipped that back to the school in Markdale, as we've had it twice now change orders because of the realization of more students. So as I understand on that part, the new school is being built in a component system that can be added to as well. So I sort of expanded from your question, Mayor, or member Mayor, but you know, I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, it does. But a follow-up question on the assessment. Did she indicate a time frame when they would start it? And my perspective, if the assessment shows that the actual building structure is not worth to keep and has to be demolished, well, we still should be interested in the transfer of the land to the municipality for a buck.
She knows that I certainly showed interest in that area. I can't add any more. We didn't get into a lot of details, but I hope to have more than one meeting. That was my first meeting with her. It was an hour and a half on Friday. Very, very good meeting. I'm quite impressed as her as an individual. She did talk about, you know, going through a planning stage for the future of, you know, the Bright Shores Health system itself. And I think that's a positive thing because we're here today, but we need to plan for tomorrow. And she did talk about the opening. We did talk about mental health as well, which, you know, I could expand more of our conversation as well. So she knows that she has my number. She knows that I have a question, and I will certainly convey and continue to hopefully have more meetings with her, because I think it is something that we as the municipality of Grey Highlands have really strong interest in. But she said that there is a process that she didn't give me any time frames on that. I guess I should have asked maybe a bit more on that, but I will follow up at a certain time.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Member Robertson, and then Steve, you're next. So
Yeah, a question for Mr. McLean. Could you provide us with Michelle at 2 meetings ago said that she was going to be providing us with some news regarding the downtown Markdale properties and the development there. Could you provide us with an update with that? And also, could you provide us with an update on the Talisman development? I believe there was a public meeting scheduled for that as well.
So as far as the update with the downtown, we're still working. We're still working through that. Still in camera. We're still working with a particular group on that. The other thing I can say that there was a visioneering that was held, I think it was 2 years ago, and I think in good faith there is that sort of that vision that was presented to the public at that time. But we're still too premature, but we're still working through that. And I can't really get into a lot of detail on it because it's still in camera and we're still dealing with that.
Why is that in camera though?
Pardon me?
Why is that in camera? Why can't the Economic Development Committee know what's going on?
Well, if you're going through a purchase or going through an agreement, there's still in the details through there. That's why it is in camera. I can't disclose that. It's no different than if
we're the public. That's our land. So we don't get any say?
Yes, it is. It is public land, but when you go through negotiations and you're in negotiations,
I understand privacy.
Yeah, that's right, and that's where we are at this point. Certainly,
but no, that's not okay.
Certainly,
the Talisman land.
I'm just going to finish up in the downtown. Certainly, when there is something to report to the public, we will be reporting to the public when the time is right on that.
Well, she had told us 2 months ago or 2 meetings ago she was going to report in a week after that meeting. So still nothing. Well,
when you're dealing with 2 parties, it's like a marriage. Things don't always work through scheduling. It sometimes takes time, and when you're dealing with 2 parties and they're individually parties, as us being one, it sometimes takes time. So I can't speak to her. I think she was probably hopeful that she would be speaking out, but I'm still hopeful that we will be speaking out soon. But sometimes you got to work through those details before you can bring it to the public. As far as the Talisman,
what about the parking lot beside the TD that was supposed to be torn down and a parking lot put in there?
Just hang on, my phone's ringing here. Just hang on, I gotta shut it off. That was a budgetary. Originally that was on the budgetary part, is about taking that building down and creating a parking lot. That was taking out of the budget near the end. I can't. That was a decision by council. I think it was $50,000 to remove that building. I'm going by memory now, but that was put on. That was taken out of the budget. So currently, right now, that is not in that. But that's about all I can report on that is at this point. The Talisman lands we had on June 12th. We had Beaver Valley Development Group has made a proposal for their land, and I think that's important that it's noted that it is private land and it is their land. And so they've brought forward a block plan, and it is available on the county website because it is an application to the county as far as subdivision decisions and block plans are at the county level. Grey Highlands is a commenting agent along with the other others that are listed in through the plan.
What was Grey Highlands' comment?
We haven't made comment yet because we're still going through the process. So on June 12th, that was the first public process, and it started at 5 and went to 9:30. I'm probably you're aware of a number of comments that were made. It was quite lengthy, and that was comments from the public based on the report that's on the website with all the attachments to the studies and points that are to that proposal.
What was the people at the meeting?
Pardon me?
What was the overall opinion from the people at the meeting?
Well, a lot of the opinions at the meeting was they didn't want it in the valley, but it's not about just opinions of there's a lot of science, there's a lot of planning part, there's a lot of processes through that, and you can go to our website and you can go to that meeting and you can listen for 4 hours to the comments that were made. There was comments also in favor of it, but not to the scale of the ones that were.
The majority of the people that live in the area don't want it.
That was some of the comments that came through. You're correct, but I'm not going into that detail right now because we are waiting to a report that comes back from our planner and also Scott Taylor at the county will be bringing a report back to a future date on that as well. So that's about all I can report on.
Is it fair to say that Grey Highlands, since the people of Grey Highlands seem to not want it, that the government of Grey Highlands will reflect that in their opinion?
I can't speak for council. I cannot speak for council because I am one of them.
That's exactly what you can do.
Coordinator Thompson, did you need to interrupt? Sorry, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Nurmi. I did just want to ask the members to not speak over one another. It is hard for the recording to pick up comments that are made when members are speaking over one another. I would request that members speak through the chair as well, just so that we can make sure to maintain the appropriateness of today's conversation.
Thank you. Good reminder. Member Thompson, were your questions answered? Or sorry, Member Robertson, were your questions answered?
Well, yeah, I'm fine. That's good.
Steve?
Just thank you for raising the question about the old hospital site. If you can, Mayor, encourage them to put on their website the status of that building, because I have developers who call me all the time about it. And when I try and research it for them, they don't answer me, so I don't know. The private sector would pick it up, I think, in a heartbeat, but it also may make sense for the municipality to pick it up. So it's good to see that there's interest there.
Just to follow up that, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
That's good feedback, and I think it's good feedback from this committee as well. And I appreciate those comments, Steve. I was aware that there is interest, but I will need to have, certainly a follow-up meeting with Anne and to sort of maybe press upon the part that sooner than later probably would be much. But everything in a corporation, and especially a public corporation, sometimes it takes time. I can't speak much more to that. But again, I spoke from a municipal standpoint, and probably as a Grey County had as well, as a building downtown in our downtown with boarded up windows does not reflect well as well, right? So I did.
Sorry,
I didn't quite catch that comment, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Member Robertson, is your hand still up or up from before?
well, yeah, I was just to say when he was talking about municipal buildings being boarded up, there is one downtown right now that is municipally owned that we can't get anything done with.
Yeah.
The only thing you're referring to 11 Toronto Street again. Is that what you're referring back to?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Empty for what, 5 years now?
Yes, and so it is in the process. Again, I talk about corporate processes, and I will remind also, those
Pretty long process.
Well, I think if you look at the interest rates and the economy of the last 2 years, that has had a big change in things as well. Just, I'm sure in the real estate, you will see that interest rates that went for like 1.5% to mortgage rates, what, 5-6%.
So there's the municipality's mortgage on that property?
I'm just saying in the sense of who could be interested or doing something with that. Yes. We had a tough budget this year. We're, around 7%. That affects people as well, as if you followed our budget process. So the economics have changed in the last 2 years to what it was before. We can't borrow money at 1.5% anymore. The infrastructure in Ontario is around, I think up to, was it 5%? The water tower, I think we were at 1.75 when we bought it for the water tower. So things have changed in the last 2 years.
Why doesn't the municipality put those properties up for sale on the public market then?
Not saying they're not for sale.
Yeah, but nobody knows they're for sale. They're not listed on the MLS system, the most popular way to sell properties.
It is, but I'm not going to speak anymore.
Why?
I'm not on the hit list here, Member Robertson, but you don't know what is our discussions in camera, and you don't know that we're in negotiations of a property acquisition. So I can't say.
I know that you have told me for years that there's been discussions. That's all I know. That's all we know, is that there's been discussions. Nothing more for 5 years.
Member Robertson, one moment. Coordinator Thompson, I think we're talking over one another again, which is affecting the recording. If I'm
Thanks, Chair Nurmi. One thing I would also like to point out, and I try to remind the group of this frequently, is that members' privilege is not for discussion. Members' privilege is typically to bring forward items that the members would like to add to an upcoming agenda. So it's not for a back and forth conversation. We have had a lot of that today. My suggestion to the members that are bringing forward items that would like to have a discussion, that they request that those items be added to a future agenda, and provide some context to what the discussion that they would like to have. Send that through the chair. The chair will send that to myself. Will be included on an agenda such that all of our conversations here and decisions made can be transparent. And ideally, this section of the agenda is not for discussion, such as what we've been having today, simply for bringing forward items for other members of the group to be aware of, and items to be brought forward for a future meeting for consideration.
Thank you, Coordinator Thompson. It's a good reminder, and it's also clear in the code of conduct that you sent out not too long ago. So it's a good reminder. Thank you. Member Halliday, I think we'd like to wrap it up with your last comment, if that's okay.
Well, that's okay by me, because I'll make my comment is I'd like to discuss the continuance of this group moving forward under an economic development advisory committee that reports to council. There is a item on tomorrow's agenda of council that is suggesting by staff that this committee be eliminated. And I have no problem with that, as long as it's being replaced by an economic development advisory committee, which reports to council and is essentially the same members, but in a different format where it reports to council.
So is there an action, Danielle, is there an action item for that request that needs to take place?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Nurmi, through you. Certainly, if Member Halliday could send that item to me by email, so committee@greyhighlands.ca, and include the chair, that item could certainly be added to an upcoming agenda.
Okay, will it be recorded today in the minutes of what I did say?
Yes. Yes,
It will be.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Yes.
So then I'll
Thank you.
formalize a motion. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Member Halliday. So at this point, we are going to confirm that our next meeting is scheduled for August 20th at 1 o'clock. And I believe, is that virtual? I believe it's virtual as well, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct
Yes,
me
it
if
is,
I'm
Chair
wrong.
Nermi.
Okay, thank you. And now I think we're at the time where we need to motion for an adjournment at 2:17 p.m. If I could have a motion for that, please. Member Robertson, seconded by Member Carson. I think we get it all in favor. I think we're all good to go at this point in our afternoon. So thank you very much and for your patience in my first chairing of